Hello everyone, in this video let us talk about setting up a life plan using the portfolio's old version. So basically in the old version of a portfolio, the plan that you create was known as life plan. So in this video we will spend a bit more time than the last video to understand what all you can do with life plan, and we will continue using the life plan as well as the new improved interface. So in the previous video, we talked about comparison of life plan versus improved interface, and we did a very quick comparison. We didn't really spend too much time on it, but in this video, I want to spend, of course, more time on life plans. And if you have been following this video from the beginning, you might remember, if you have followed especially video 2 and 3 in the series, I talked about a scenario where we are trying to build a mobile app for Android and iOS, and at the same time we have some other plans. So the idea here is to manage multiple projects in a single plan. So we will do something similar with the life plan. We did this with the new improved interface, where we have the roadmap and where we have the timeline which we can modify, but things work different in the life plan. So in this video we will definitely create a life plan. We will also take a look at the concept of stages and skills, which is not a feature yet in the new improved interface. We will also take a look at a feature called as calculate. It is something similar to the auto schedule feature, but in the life plan this calculate button will do a bit more than the auto schedule feature of your new improved interface. And we will also take a look at the individual capacities, where we will set some working days or capacity for individual team members, so that portfolio can take care of these non-working days for individuals when making a plan for us. So I will move on to my Jira instance, and I will take a look at of course my projects. So I have created two projects, two blank Scrum based projects, and I am using a name called as live Android plan and live iOS plan. So we'll do something similar that we did last time, so that we can compare. So if you want to use maybe live plan but you're not sure, so you can of course watch my videos on the new improved interface, and then you can do a comparison. So let us click on the create button on top. When you go to portfolio, we are creating a plan, and of course we'll give this plan a name, and I will try to use some names with the reference of live plan, so that we know that it is a live plan. So first of all, I will give this plan a name, foodie life plan, and I will click on the next button. So this process is similar, and if you want to manage your sprints, I recommend you to also take a look at also if you want to manage these Scrum based projects in a portfolio plan, try to use a board here. So the name of my plan is, I believe, FI board. Let me just take a look. I think I forgot the name. So if I take a look at my view all projects, I just want to select the new projects that I just created, and those projects are, I think, LAP and LIP. So live Android and live iOS project. So this looks good now. I'll just verify if I go to my list of projects. So my project key is LAP and LIP, which is fine. If I go back, I'll click on the next button. And if you have any releases in your project, you can select them. But since we are working on a blank project, so we don't have anything to select, then you can do something similar that we did last time. We can select the type of your team. So if you're working on a Scrum-based projects and your sprint duration is 2 weeks, let it be 2 weeks. Your initially you don't really know your capacity, your team capacity, but uh, let us start with 30 and we can modify it. So you can enter 30 or you can just leave it as it is. So if you click on the next button, you can then select maybe the issues that are there, but we don't have any issues. So let us click on the done button. And finally, we will have a plan which we can start using immediately. So I want to, of course, spend a bit more time in this video, and I want to also show you how to create stages and skills. So the moment you create a new plan, you will be directly taken to this new improved interface. So what I will do, I will open my new improved interface, the old plan, not the old plan, but the plan that we made earlier in a separate window so that we have a reference. But for this new plan, or rather I should say the live plan, I will modify the I don't really want to use the planning interface, the new planning interface. So I'll go to the planning interface and I will use, or I will simply disable it. So once you disable it, then you will be using a live plan. So you have the option to disable the new improved interface. So if you take a look at the old plan here, right now I should use the word live plan, not live plan. I should use the word improved interface. So if you take a look at the improved interface, right now we have two epics: launch Android app and launch iOS app. And under those two epics, we have few stories like user sign up and user sign up for both iOS and Android. Let us do something similar in our live plan. So this is the interface where we don't have anything. So let us start doing something. So I want to maybe first create one epic. So I can click on this option here called create epic. So my first epic would be under my Android app, and I want to name it as launch. Okay, I think I pressed, I clicked somewhere else. So let me just go back. So if I click on this and if I type in here launch Android app, I'll press enter. So I'll do the same thing maybe for my iOS. So launch iOS app. So we have two epics to work on. So what else we can do now? Let us take a look at right now there is no estimate, there is nothing here. So let me just click on the calculate button. It won't really do anything because we don't really have any estimates. But at this moment, you can commit your change if you want. Or you can click on, let us say, maybe you want to create some stories under it. So let us create a story. The first story could be maybe user sign up. So let us click on this and user sign up. And this is for Android. So I'll just use some keyword here. I'll do the same thing for my iOS. User sign up iOS. So these are of course few stories and epics. Now at this stage I may want to estimate. So maybe my user sign up for Android, it is the estimate is, let us say, 5 story points. For iOS it is maybe 6. I'm just doing some estimation. And you may have of course more items. Let us say you also want to perform some testing, or maybe you want to maybe you just want to add a few more activities. So you can add those activities if you want, but for the time being, maybe okay, you can also add a subtask, which is fine, but let us not worry about it. So just commit those changes. So let us commit these changes to the project so that we have some information stored in the actual project in Jira. And at this stage, we are not doing much. We are just preparing a plan in the beginning with some estimations. So while you are looking at your plan, you have of course the option to take a look at these epics and stories. Now the moment you do something here, like on the scope, your timeline will start showing you some activity, and you can immediately see here that there is a green line. So this green line, this schedule, this timeline will show you the upcoming releases that you're doing. So we will also define those releases. So let us do a few more things here. Let us first, we want to of course estimate. We have just did this estimation, but uh, we will also assign it to team members. Now we have to of course build our team, and if I take a look at my teams here, I already have two teams, one for Android, one for my iOS. I'll go back to my plan. So my name would be Team Foodie Android. So let us use the same name. So I'll name it as Team Foodie Android, and I will do the same thing for my Team Foodie iOS. So I have two teams now. I can create maybe one more, and this time I want to create Team Foodie UI. I can create a UI UX team, but let us do something different this time. Shall we create a team here? Okay, let us not create it. We'll probably manage it with these two teams. We will create a team for UI UX, but for the timing, let us just modify the team members and add all the UI UX folks in the same Android team. So what I can do here, I can first find my Android resources. So I'll add my resource number 1, Elana, then I'll add my resource number 2, Gary, and then I'll also add my resource number 3, Sandeep. So I'll do the same thing for my iOS team. So for my quick reference, I've inserted the names as, I'm using some keywords in the team member names, but in real life, I'm sure you know your team members. But I'm just doing it so that I can quickly find them, and I don't really mix people when I'm doing a plan and when I'm showing you how it works. So we have defined some team members, and what else I can do here? I can also click on one of these teams or team members, and then I can define their global availability, and I can also define their absence. So let us say this particular user, Alana, maybe I want to add, let us say, some UI UX members, some designers. So I'll add maybe two of my designers here. So I can add my designers, and if I click on one of my designer, let us say Neeraj or maybe someone else, I can define here that Neeraj is maybe not working on on specific dates. So let me click on the global availability, and I'll be taken to a different page here where I can manage Neeraj's absences. So if I click on, let us say, Neeraj here, I can define here that Neeraj is available from maybe next week, which is Monday 24th till maybe 13th of April. And Neeraj is also not really working on maybe Wednesday and Thursday. So I can do that. I can maybe create one more absence, maybe in the month of March. So these are the dates when Neeraj is not really working. And then I can just go back to my plan, and I will commit those changes. So if I go back to my Foodie Life plan, I have, of course, my team defined here, I believe, where if I click on Neeraj now, I can see these absences, and I know that Neeraj is only working for me from 24th of February till 13th of March, but even in that range, Neeraj is not working for maybe 2 days in these 2 weeks. So you can also see here that, Neeraj can also be part of maybe Team iOS. You can also do the same thing here. Maybe you can add Neeraj. Maybe Neeraj is a very important resource, and everyone wants to work with Neeraj. So you can add Neeraj in both the teams, and at the same time, you can add maybe one more resource, Vinod. So Neeraj is common in both the teams. Maybe he's like doing some supervision, but he is not really available fully. So you can do that by simply defining when Neeraj will be working. So what else you can do? Let us say if Neeraj is working on two teams, so you can also define team specific availability. So you have global availability, then you have team specific availability, and of course you have absence. So maybe Neeraj is working on my Android project um, maybe in February only. So I'll maybe select 20th February till 28th of February. So this is for team Android, but for iOS, Neeraj is working only in March. So this is quite interesting because this is something really close to what happens in real life. So Neeraj is so the scenario is that Neeraj is working for us for 1 month, uh, but he can only work for us 3 times a day, or not a day, but 3 times a week. But for the first 2 weeks, Neeraj is working for Android project. The next 2 weeks, Neeraj is working for iOS project. So this is something that you can do. And when you're working with live plans, these things will be taken into account. So I'll commit these changes. So you need to commit your changes so that these changes in the teams will be reflected. And now what you can do, you can of course do few things like you can start defining your releases. So let us define a release. So maybe I want to create a release in my Android project. So let us do that. Let us first click on the button called the first release I want is for my Android, which is the Feb release Android. So I will do the same thing here, Feb release Android, and I will link it to my Android project. And you can leave the dates as early as possible, the start date. And for the release date, you can leave it as dynamic. But we can also try the fixed release date. Maybe we want to release it on 15th of March for sure. So portfolio will tell us whether you can do that or not. But for the time being, let us just keep it as dynamic. And let us click on release button. And we'll do the same thing for iOS. So we will do it very quickly. Same thing, nothing different. We may want to create a cross project release. Maybe we can select something like Feb release common. I mean, when you use these cross project releases, you will be able to simply align the dates by simply, you have just one release that will align the dates for you for multiple projects. So you can select the project names here, Android and iOS, and you can click on the create release. So this will basically create this release in both the projects with the same dates. So it's a bit different if you compare it with your improved interface, where you have the option to basically link it to different releases, I believe with different names across projects. So if I go back to my improved interface, if you take a look at your cross project releases, you basically have the option to link it to two different releases in different projects with each having their own name. But in this case, in the live plan, this release is actually common, and now we can actually use this same release for both the Android or iOS, or we can just worry about the individual releases. So let us do one thing. Let us just use the common release because we want to release something in both the projects, maybe at the same time, because we want to launch this app together. So let us see how portfolio behaves. So if I click on the delete button, then we will be able to figure out whether we can release something at the same time or not. So I'll go back to my scope. I will commit the changes, and I will now I can click on the calculate button because it will show me something if if you want to map it to a specific release. But let us do a few more things. I may want to include my team and my release. Where is my release here? Okay, I can see the release here. So it says later, later, later. Okay, all right. So we can see the release, we can see the teams, we can see team members. And if I click on the calculate button, we can see here that uh, right now none of the I mean, as per the current plan, the portfolio is suggesting us later, 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 and you can release something which is on 5th of March. So I can actually select common here. Let me select common, and I'll do the same thing for my iOS, sorry, for my Android. Or let us try with the calculate first, and let us see how it works. So no, let us select common for both, and let us click on the common calculate button. So we have some information now, but we want to see whether we can release something. I mean, we want to see the date. So right now, if you click on the calculate button and you take a look at the, I mean, right now I'm committing, but the suggestion right now is 5th of March. But what I can do, I can go to my releases, and I can maybe click on this release that I want maybe a bit before. Let us say if I click on my cross project release and my Feb release for Android, and I want to maybe see if I can release something on 28th of February. I'll but I'll just leave it as it is. And for iOS, maybe the same thing. I will select 29th, and if I click on the calculate button, I can see here that no, we cannot release it on 29th. So if I go to my plan again, and maybe I can assign a different team, because right now the Android team is working on iOS based activities. So I'll change my team here just to reduce the workload. I mean, now I'm trying to play with the plan. So there is still no change in the plan here. So let us do one thing now. Let us also play a bit more with the assignment of these activities, because right now things are getting assigned to the team members, but we want to have better control on it. So what I can do, let me first commit these changes. I mean, it is up to you if you want to commit these changes or not, but you can always just leave it as it is, or enable the scenarios if you want. Because I just want to have a clean interface so that I can show you very clearly. So if I go to my stages and skills, you have the option to create a stage or different stages, and then for each stage you can create a skill. So let us say you are trying to do something and you want to have a stage like design, then maybe you want to have one more stage, maybe coding and code and test, and then finally you want to have maybe deployment. So you are just doing a breakup of these. I mean, the overall plan will let you define estimates for different stages, and it is also linked to the team members, which we will take a look at very quickly. For my designing skills, I may want to add maybe CSS and what else, HTML, and maybe you can create something like JavaScript. So just few skills that I want to create. For coding and testing, I want to have something like Android, and or maybe I'll add something like Java and Swift if we are talking about iOS app development. And for deployment, maybe we want to have someone with Jenkins, and maybe someone with what else we can do here, maybe Linux. I mean, I'm just creating some skills that are very specific, but of course you can have people with multiple skills. So if you go back to your plan, and now if you go to your team members, Now for each and every team member, you have the option to select whether these people are I mean whether they have these skills or not. So maybe I mean if you can see here, Alana is my Android developer, so I can select here Java and maybe Java, and Sandeep is also my Android developer. I'll do the same thing for my UI UX people. And these skills, I mean, if I select for Naomi design and also for Neeraj, I mean, they can do everything, CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. This will also be applied to my other team. So if I look at my Neeraj here, Neeraj is part of my designing stage and all these skills under it. For my iOS developers, I will select Swift, and Swift. So this is really helpful because now if you go back to your plan and or your scope, now if you click on the story points here, let me just try to make a bit more room here. So now if you take a look at the story points, now you have the option to do this estimation a bit more in detailed manner, because maybe you are doing the user sign up. I mean, this for this particular activity, you need someone with the UI UX skills. So I can just remove my story points from here. Let us just remove it from here, and let us start from a clean plan, clean scope. So maybe for user sign up Android activity, I need someone with CSS. So maybe the weightage is, I mean, I'm just trying to break up the story points, and I can do the same thing for my iOS. So I'll start with CSS, maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, and you can see here that immediately the design activity, the total story points are 4 and 6. Now, if I click on and I can also remove my teams. I'll just make sure that I'm not really using. Let us click on the calculate button and let us see if there is any change or not. So immediately you can see here that now Naomi is working on UI UX activity because she has the design skills, and Vinod also has the design skills. And you can immediately see that with the help of these stages and skills, you have more control on what you can do with the plan when it comes to the assignments. Now, right now we are not really talking about the coding and testing. Maybe we can add maybe one more skill set here, or not a skill set, but I may want to have a new story. Maybe I can create a story like login functionality for Android, and I will create something similar for login functionality for iOS. So we have, of course, now more information here, and I'll just go to the story. I think I forgot to include it make it part of an epic. So these are of course my two stories, and now what I can do, I can for Android I want someone with Android skills or Java skills. So I'll add something like maybe 4. Maybe let us try with a bit more, maybe 6 for Android, and maybe 6 for iOS. Now if I click on the calculate button, let us see if there is any assignment or not. So there is some assignment for my team, from my team for the Android team to my Android activity, but not really for iOS. So let us see what is wrong. If there is something wrong, because right now there is no assignment of my team members, I can let me first make these stories part of my epic, so that let me try again. It won't really help, but let us see. Okay, so let us click on this sign here, this alert. So it says that this issue, I'll just make more space for you to see. So I think, yeah, you can see here. So this issue can't be scheduled because the available team members don't have the required skill set. So we have some information about why no one can be assigned on this activity. So let us see if if I take a look at the story points here. we are telling portfolio that we need someone with Java skills. So do we have someone with Java skills? Um, yeah, we do have someone with Java skills, but let us see what went wrong. I think it should be. I mean, we do have someone with Java skills, but maybe they are not available. But it should be ideally the Swift. Let me click on 6 here, and now let us click on the button. So now you can see here that we have some clarity. So we can see here that people are now getting assigned as they should be, because we want someone from that particular skill set to be assigned on these activities. And the good thing is that these things can be um, let us worry about these sprints later on, but this can also be managed from portfolio. So things look good now. The only thing which is of course concerning is that portfolio is telling us that we can't deliver this on 29th of Feb. So can we do something about it? Can we maybe try to reduce the amount of workload? So maybe I want to see if I can reduce the workload maybe by maybe two here. And if I click on button, can I now release something on 29th of Feb? No, I still can't do it. Let us go back to the release, and let me just click on my release here, and align dates, fix release. I want to release it on 28th maybe, and let us see. So for yeah, this is already 28th. Okay, this is fine. So what I want to do is I want to basically make sure that I can release something in or maybe by a specific date. Now, if I go back to the plan, basically I'm doing two releases, I believe, but I'm managing them using my cross project release. So portfolio is telling us that you cannot really release something. Your iOS cannot be released in February. It says later, but maybe we can try to let us see if we can do something here. Let me try to not really for iOS, but for my login functionality Android. Let us try to do something here, and let us try to push it a bit more. So you can see here that we cannot really release something in the month of February, because um, we are doing a lot of work than we should be doing. If we go to the release here, we have some indication about the dates. So we are able to release something. I mean, portfolio is saying or suggesting that you can release something by 5th of March, not really before that. So what I can do here, I can maybe change it to dynamic. Let us see. Let us see if we can do something here. And if we click on the calculate button, so now we are able to release something by 5th of March. So this is something, I mean, these are few things that you can do with portfolio. And if you click on the button commit, let us say if you're happy with now you are working on the plan and you think that, you're trying to negotiate with your stakeholders that, okay, 28th of February is not possible. Let us release something on the 5th of March. If they're happy, they will probably push you, but you can present them this plan that this is not possible. Either you reduce the workload, or maybe you give me more team members, or because they don't have the capacity. And of course, not everyone is working full time for me, because one of my resource, I'm not sure whether that resource is part of this plan or not, but if you give me more resource full time, I may be able to release something a bit sooner than you expect. So this is how you can use portfolio when you're doing planning. And what we will do now, we are making a lot of videos on portfolio, and my objective is to help you in understanding how portfolio can be useful for you by giving you different scenarios. And in the beginning, start playing with the portfolio and start using it in your, of course, real project, so that you can apply this knowledge. And you will only be able to use portfolio when you play with it. Otherwise, portfolio can be a bit tricky tricky app to use, and people really get confused with it, with this app. So we will continue using portfolio, and what we will do in the next video, we will take a look at how to also um, make sure that when you use portfolio, you're also able to assign the issues to your actual team members and to the vice versa. So maybe you already have some assignments in your projects. You want to see them on your portfolio, but when you do any change on your portfolio, you want those assignments to be reflected back to your actual projects. So we will take a look at these things in the next video. So I hope you found this video useful and you learned something new today. Thank you very much.